Steve Nash, huh? You know we're going to have a lot to talk about New York City, Brooklyn Nets fans, Knicks fans. We're going to talk a little bit about Steve Nash. Let's do it. You know, we at the Front Office Podcast, we like to have the greatest in technology. We like to use the best studio equipment. And nothing like a software company letting you download their software for free, allowing you to record 20 minutes of your podcast, and then basically saying, pumping static into it to force you to buy their stuff. Sam, are you as annoyed with technology as I am right now?
Oh, I'm beyond annoyed at this point.
It's kind of like what we were talking about before, where Apple makes everything start to go slow so you could buy another $1,000 phone.
I know. It's yeah. I mean, at this point, I just expect the worst.
Good segue. Because a lot of people expected the worst in terms of our coaching choices. I'll never understand the Tyrone Lue fans. Like, everyone was like, it's a lock. KD and Kyrie is going to pick this team. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Eve. It's going to be Ty Lue. It's not going to be. It was never going to be Ty Lue. Are you sad today that it's not Ty Lue, Sam?
No, I'm very, very happy that it's not Ty Lue. This to me is like, minus Popovich, which I think would have been, interesting. I think some would say it's insane that I'm saying it wouldn't be a massive home run, but like, I don't know, the idea of a 71-year-old coach moving to the other side of the country who hasn't dealt with the New York media and stuff like that. I don't know.
71-year-olds are stuck in their ways. You're not going to get a 71-year-old to start taking the subway all of a sudden.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so Nash to me is exciting because, to be honest, like, if we're going to do a quick like checklist of the other guys, like, I have never and was not that much of a fan of Ty Lue. I think the combo of Van Gundy and Kyrie seemed like a disaster in the making. I definitely didn't want Mark Jackson. I thought Jason Kidd was actually semi-interesting just because, as we've discussed off air, I think Kyrie and KD needed someone who they had respect for, and I think Kidd is in a similar light to Nash, and that it's hard to not respect everything he's accomplished. But Nash, to me, brings the best of all worlds because, to me, he's got the trifecta. He's incredibly smart. He's very media savvy. Like, he's on all these like podcasts all the time, whether it's with Bill Simmons or Zach Lowe or whoever it is, and the guy just knows how to deal with media markets very well. And then the last thing is, he's a Hall of Fame player who's incredibly cerebral, and also was a teammate that legitimately everyone liked. Like, you never hear a bad word about him. So,
behind the scenes, he's probably a killer. And the most important feature of the next Nets coach needed to be the ability to tell Kyrie Irving to shut the fuck up. Let's go through the list of candidates, right? Ty Lue, yep. Kyrie knows it from his Cleveland time, was a figurehead coach for LeBron. LeBron was the player coach of that team. Blatt and LeBron clashed with ideas. It wasn't the front office that was it. It definitely wasn't us, but it wasn't the Cleveland front office that decided, you know what, Blatt isn't any good anymore. Let's hire Ty Lue in what was almost like the middle of the season or something like that. Ty Lue, and I think every front office and every GM and NBA understands this, which is why he's still unemployed. Ty Lue was a figurehead coach. He was there to to just be the symbol of a coach on the bench, and LeBron ran the show. So that guy and Kyrie knowing that piece of information could not tell Kyrie to shut the fuck up. Kyrie would look at him and go, "Oh, you ain't tell LeBron to shut the fuck up," and so he was a bad hire. Ime Udoka, I like that hire. He's the guy you go out and get if you want to build a strong defensive team out of a bunch of young draft picks. That's who the Knicks should have hired, in my opinion, because he also does something that Nash can do. You can't have players who play Fortnite and have Pop relate to those guys. Pop is not going to understand that right before practice a player did a TikTok. You understand what I'm saying? Like Pop, if you're trying to install a guy who's gonna go and chase these rings and bring this championship here, you need a guy who's gonna understand the younger players. You're gonna even though the Nets may not look very young coming into this, but you need a guy who's flexible enough to do that. And so I almost feel like the Nets couldn't have found a better choice because one, they love the small ball thing, right? That's how they're gonna play. It's gonna infuriate me. What I've been seeing about these playoffs, and we could talk about the playoffs after this. I'm not in love, and I'm not a believer in small ball at all. I felt playing small ball almost cost the Rockets a series, versus OKC. If Chris Paul wasn't such an enigmatic choker, like I'll never understand that. He'll play 6 perfect games and be the guy throughout a series, and then at the end of a 7-game series, he just disappears, and it happens time and time and time again to Chris Paul, and but still, that small ball, you've got to have Herculean efforts to do it. But if the Nets are gonna just go out and blitz teams to the point where it just doesn't matter what they do on defense or how they match up, the perfect teacher for that is Steve Nash.
Yep.
You cannot get a better guy who kind of understands the rudimentary ins and outs of that system that they want to run. So they got the right guy for that perspective. They got the right guy in terms of who's going to talk to these kids. Who's going to understand that Jarrett Allen, basically just invested in some computer game a crew who's battling at some game I've never heard of. You know what I mean? Like these things culturally are so far from a Popovich, so far from a Van Gundy, so far from some of these retread coaches that you got those first 2 boxes checked of understands what we're trying to do on the court, is closer to the age of some of the players and understands the culture of the players of right now, and then most importantly, Kevin Durant will listen to Steve Nash. He will trust and have faith that Steve Nash understands something that he's doing, or understands how to unlock or fix a problem that's happening on the court, because Steve Nash is a Hall of Famer, is a player. And then to my last point, leading off of this piece right here, is the personalities of the 2 superstars that you have needed a Steve Nash, because even though I hate the small ball thing, Steve Nash is the type of guy that they would listen to, because more KD than Kyrie. Kyrie is more, when he's looking at it, it's more existential. It's more, what does basketball matter? Is it, it's just entertainment and all this other bullshit. But Kevin Durant believes you have to be a player to understand this game. You have to understand the little intricacies that adding a mid-range shot, as a weapon gives the players the ability to just improvise enough where the math on 3-point shots don't matter anymore. And so having a coach that is a player that has now moved into the senior position of basically NBA God, hard to. I go back and forth because I think Jason Kidd was so much better player than Steve Nash. But no matter what, he's a legend. Legends talk to legends is where I'm trying to get with it.
I tweeted after this was like all those years of me getting into arguments with friends where I said that a Kidd was better than Nash, and now feel like they're all for nothing because now we got Nash, and Kidd also totally burned the franchise with the way that he exited.
Well, how's that like? J Kidd's a despicable dude. I think we've talked about it on a pod before.
Oh yeah, he is.
He was a despicable dude in Dallas, but he's our despicable dude, right? That's the point of view that you have to take with Kyrie. That's the point of view that you got to take with Jason Kidd. And if the guys were hiring Jason Kidd, like the old regime, Billy King and those guys, they should have known that was what was coming for them because, it's what Jason Kidd has done throughout his whole career. Jason Kidd is the guy who sat on the bench and forced the trade because he said he had a migraine. And all those things being said, you're not getting that with Steve Nash. You're getting a stand-up dude, a dude that has relationships with players throughout the league, and then the most important thing, I think, to this hiring is not really the players we have. We have Kyrie, we have KD. Sean Marks, if he really was understood what his power is, he's like, you know what? He could tell Kyrie and KD, your futures as legends is going to be decided in Brooklyn, and you two need to stop being assholes. And let's go get this thing. He could, but that's not the way he operates. That's not who he is. And so he brought the ultimate kind of linchpin kind of guy, like the guy who's gonna bring it all together where the consensus could be had and where there's a one leader on the bench and I got to give it a 10 out of 10 in hirings, man. Like this guy, I had mentioned it a few times. I said that Steve Nash on Twitter should be. I said it to Steve Nash on Twitter, or something like that. He was training with He was training with D-Lo, and he was working D-Lo out at HSS, and someone had shared pictures of it. I think it might have been Puccio or something like that. And I was like, that guy should be the Nets head coach. But I never thought it was the way he wanted to live his life. And it also satisfied another big part. Do you know what the other big part? Are you guessing where I'm going with this, Sam? The other thing they were able to accomplish with all of this.
I'm wondering if it's about keeping Jacques as lead assistant.
Exactly. You're brilliant, man. You should become like a lawyer or something. You should go to law school.
Trying my best.
So that fucking guy is
happy he's back.
Was important, man. Jacques Vaughn was important, and he was important for a couple of things. And the reason why I thought he would get the job is, we've talked about it all, and I think all of it holds true. If you look at the way they leaked news yesterday with all of this, Jacques Vaughn officially interviews for the job. Everybody was impressed. We think he's amazing. We think he's a head coach caliber type of guy. It's because they knew since yesterday that they were hiring the guy that, they were hiring Steve Nash, the guy that makes this whole thing kind of work. But when you keep Jacques Vaughn, you